should have done this earlier. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Palouse. I am the Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens. I have the incredible privilege of serving this congregation as its minister. And this morning I am going to be serving as your celebrant because we have a very, very special guest. This is Stacia Morfin. She is the founder and CEO, is that the proper term? Of Nez Perce Tourism, which is, I'm so excited to learn more about it. Lisa Salisbury told me a little bit about Stacia and what she's doing, which is cultural history and combined with tourism. There's a lot of mentor programs between elders and youngers. I don't want to steal your thunder, so. But I'm super excited to have her here with us to talk a little bit more about what she's up to. And, you know, I just want to, worship is a word that means, worship is a word that means shaping that which has worth. And I just want to say up front that understanding the history of the place where we live has tremendous worth. And that's why I'm so grateful to Stacia for being here with us. So let's go. Wait, I have some announcements I have to do. Okay. And it wants my password. Right? Oh, goodness. Thank you for bearing with me. I apologize. Good point. Oh, wants me to sign in again. Thank you, Sam. There we go. Thank you. All right. All right, so I want to begin by extending a special welcome to anyone who's here worshiping with us for the first time. We're so very glad that you've joined us. If you've come in person, you should have received a welcome packet when you arrived. It's got a card in it, and if you fill that out and drop it in the offering basket, we'll be in touch to support you in finding your way into our community. In the meantime, after the service, we have coffee and conversation downstairs in our fellowship hall. Please join us. And if you have any questions, our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags. Yep, there we go. And they'd be happy to help you out, as would I. If you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of that same card. And there's a virtual coffee hour after the service if there's any interest, so you don't have to log off right away. And now let's go ahead and say our words of welcome together. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are here. We are one people of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved, body, mind, heart, and spirit. Just as you are welcome here. So now we're going to take just a moment to say hello across the technological divide. So first, we're going to show the people who are joining us on Zoom. If you're at home, please turn on your camera. People at home, wave. Hello. Okay, and now, people in the sanctuary. There we go. All right, and I do have a few announcements. So tomorrow, there will be a city celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day at Friendship Square starting at 3:30 p.m. Gwen Carter is the keynote speaker, and there will be music by the Lightning Creek Drum and Singers. And then next Sunday, we'll have our New to UU workshop and light lunch downstairs at 11:30. This is a really good chance to learn more about Unitarian Universalism and this congregation. So if you're newer or if you just have questions, please go ahead and plan to join us. Here end the announcements. We preface our service each week by acknowledging that the land on which our homes and our church were built was not uninhabited when European settlers arrived here with their ideas of conquest and ownership. For those of us who live in Moscow, Pullman, or other nearby communities, we live on the ancestral homelands of the Nimipu, called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Chichumsh, called the Coeur d'Alene. If you're joining us from another place, I encourage you to discover who inhabited or moved through the place where you now live in the times before colonization and genocide, and where they are now. We pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. Okay, Thamer, it's time. Come on. Marcia, do you need another grown-up helper? Okay. All right. So we also pause for a moment to light a candle and pray together for peace. So we're going to light the blue one. We hold in our hearts all those currently threatened by greed and imperialism, from the people in Ukraine to those in Somalia. May we recommit ourselves to nurturing peace in the world and peace within. And we're hoping that folks joining us via Zoom have a chalice or candle to light and something to light it with. We're going to light our chalices together now. Okay. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung in every land by every tongue. Please be seated. So this will be the 11th year that we, meaning myself and this congregation, have celebrated Indigenous Peoples Day. In years past, we've taken a more honest look at the history of this continent, acknowledging that Europeans invaded rather than discovered, and grieving the high cost that the more than 400 discrete nations of Indigenous peoples in North and South America paid in the wake of that invasion. We've participated in a powerful ritual that reenacted the invasion and helped us embody the painful history. We've learned about the doctrine of discovery and why it is so evil. And we've reached out to the tribes who originally inhabited this place to offer our help and support in whatever ways they are needed. We've heard from Gary Dorr, from Mary Jane Oatman, from Julian Matthews, from Jan Johnson. And this year, we are lucky enough to have Stacia Morfin with us. As I said, Stacia is the founder and CEO of Nez Perce Tourism, which is a community-based organization that offers historical tourism and education opportunities, sharing the stories and culture of the Nimipu, as well as, in words from their website, the legendary hospitality founded in our cultural understanding of honor and respect, because we here also are grounded in radical hospitality and a culture of honor and respect. We are deeply grateful to you for being with us today. I'm so excited to learn more about your mission and your message. So thank you again. Ketsayuyu, did I say that right? Ketsayauya. We know that one, and then we learned Tatsmawi? Tatsmawi, okay. Trying. All right, so thanks again for being here. All right, and I invite you now to rise in body and spirit. We're going to sing together now, number 108, My Life Flows On. If it makes me put my password again, I'm going to scream. All right, so now we're going to take just a moment to engage in the practice of generosity together. For those of you who are able to make a financial contribution, if you're online, the logistics are on your screen, and if you're present, the baskets will be passed around shortly. We invite you, if you're online, to either copy down the information you need or go to the website to make a donation. The web address will be in the chat. Those of you who are newer or visiting from another part of the country may not be aware that we give away all of the cash from our Sunday offering to local charities whose missions align with our values, a program we call the Month of Sundays. This month, the recipient is Family Promise of the Palouse, whose mission is to empower families with children experiencing homelessness to achieve sustainable independence for a more promising future. If you are donating online, you can choose Month of Sundays from the drop-down menu, and if you're mailing or dropping off a check, simply indicate in the memo line whether it's intended for the Month of Sundays or for our general fund. In the spirit of love and for the continuing work of this church, we'll now take some time to practice generosity together. And now I invite you into a time of meditation or prayer. Find your feet on the ground. Settle your mind. Listen for your breath in and out. Now listen for your heartbeat. Can you feel the blood swish with every pulse? Our blood flows through our veins just as the water flows through the land. Our bodies hold the rhythms of the earth. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. The trees and plants answer us, breathing in carbon dioxide, breathing out oxygen. In our modern life, it's easy to become tempted by forgetfulness. We forget that we're not separate from nature, but a part of it. We become insulated from our own interdependence, insulated by all the fake stuff we've been convinced that we need to be human. We forget that we're in relationship with the trees, the water, the animals, and the wild beauty of the natural world. So in this moment, for this short time, let us remember that we and the earth are one, that what happens to the earth happens to each and every one of us and to the plants and animal people as well. We have to choose. We can be consumers, sacrificing the earth for the sake of all that fake stuff, or we can be protectors, releasing our attachment to stuff for the sake of the earth. This is the time of choosing, the time of turning. May we choose wisely and turn toward life. Let's rest in the silence together. Amen, and blessed be. Stacia, you're on.
Good morning. Ina Monique Twas, Kusnim Kastua. My name is one who takes care of water, also known as Stacia Morphe. Tots F'Pa'ayin, a big welcome. Welcome to this beautiful place that I have felt the most at home since I walked into this building. There is a real sweet, safe atmosphere that I feel in this room and in this building. And I'm really, really happy to be sharing this space with you guys today. I am not only a very proud member of the Namipu Nation, also known as the Nez Perce Nation, but as Reverend Dr. Elizabeth said, that I'm also the CEO and founder of Nez Perce Tourism, which is a very, very important community-led organization that offers several different pillars of understanding. Our main one is cultural identity. As we've heard through the stories and the intro, the land acknowledgement, even in your mission, there's a lot of the unreconciled truths of real history that happened here in present-day United States. But I think what we're doing is we're offering cultural identity to be able to be restored and reconciled, and to be here to present on the behalf of my community, my people. It is very, very important that I'm here and I get to present from a place of healing, from a place of forgiveness, which is something that us as sovereign people, every single one of us has that opportunity to do. And it's given, we know exactly how that's given, right? With our direct connection that we have with the light that's shared, with the Nunam Haniwa, Katsiaya Nunam Haniwa. Thank you, God, the creator of all things, for allowing us to be here today, to be able to share, to be able to express ourselves, and to maybe learn something new, maybe something that we've never heard, that we maybe didn't know before. So I love getting up, and I love presenting, and I love representing myself, my community, my family, the Namipu Nation. A lot of the times when I go and present at places, I might be the only Native or only Indigenous person that a group of people have ever seen. So I'm not only representing the Namipu, I'm also sometimes representing a whole nation of people, which is a very, very big responsibility. And so some people know us as the Nez Perce. The Nez Perce, as was stated before, was a name that was given to us by French fur traders in the late 1800s. Does anybody know what Nez Perce or Ne Perce might mean in the French language? Pierce nose, that is absolutely right. So we were known as the Pierce nose in the 1800s. I kind of want to set the record straight. Piercing our noses was not something that we had historically done. When we look at the sign language dialect, which was spoken very prominently, during the colonial contact days, everybody spoke a different language. So what we did is we talked about being the people that came over the mountains and through the rivers. We were the people that came over the mountains and through the rivers. That very direct act of saying through the rivers, our old people tell us, might have been the misconception that we pierced our noses. Again, that is not something that we had historically done. Another one of the theories that our old people talk to us about is during several times of the year, even now. Right now we're gathering our camas balls, right? A very, very important place in which we traditionally gathered the camas is right here between the Moscow and Pullman area, the Pulutzpu area. This is where my grandmother comes from. This is where this dress comes from. This is 220 years old, made out of bighorn sheep. And this is a very, very important dress for myself and my family, to be able to bring it out, not only for you to see the beauty and the intricacy and the details and how long our material culture has lasted, but I wanted to bring her out. I wanted to say, welcome home. This is where you come from. This is your homeland. Because my grandmother's side of the family comes from the Chief Pile of Clouds band, which is part of the Palouse people. And so what we would do all throughout different parts of the year is we would perhaps be salmon fishing for our very sacred Nasoch, our aquatic relatives. Perhaps we would come up here to Palutzbu and gather our kamis. But not only would we invite ourselves as the Namipu, we would also invite other bands of Nez Perce, which there could have been anywhere from 9 to 20 different bands all across our usual and accustomed homeland areas. So now when we look at the Nez Perce Reservation, we're looking at a very, very small piece of our usual and accustomed areas. So pre-colonial times, our homeland would have been about 19 million acres, including present-day states of Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Montana, Wyoming. Yellowstone is also one of our sacred gathering places, our sacred medicine places, our sacred places to go and hunt buffalo every year, and that is something that we still have access to do on an annual basis. We're able to hunt our bison, we're able to hunt our wubukia, our elk, gather our medicines or foods. My family and I were just there about a month ago, and it was very, very amazing to be home again there as well. But what we did in these areas is we would gather kamis right here in between Moscow and Pullman area, and all kinds of other first foods and medicines throughout this region here. But what we would do is we would also invite different bands. Say, for example, who's familiar with Chief Joseph, a very prominent leader within the Namipu people. Now, Chief Joseph was a band leader in the Wallowa, Oregon territory, right? We also have Twisted Hair, Pile of Clouds, Red Bear, Redbird. All of these different bands of people were responsible for large parts of our homelands. And all throughout these seasons, we would come together, not only with Namipu bands of people, but also with, say, for example, the Coeur d'Alene, or the Chinook Nation, or any of the other plateaus, the Walla Walla. We would come together and we would gather, we would fish, and we would make sure that we did horse races, foot races, maybe intermarrying. You know, we gathered together to celebrate one another. And these very, very important places is where we also believe that the Chinook Nation, who they pierce their noses, they may have been misidentified during a gathering season of being a Nez Perce. So that might be another theory in how we received that name. But again, we call ourselves Namipu. So say it with me. Ni, me, pu. So Namipu. That's who we are. So now that we've had a chance to be able to authentically spend time together, you can allow your friends, your family, your colleagues to let them know that you've authentically spent time with the Namipu people instead of the Nez Perce. So we're slowly trying to decolonize even just that name, which is going to be quite the process, because from a tourism and education standpoint, it's really, really hard to be able to say Namipu tourism. People are going to say, what the heck is that? But if you say Nez Perce tourism, people might know exactly what that is. So the three most common things that the Nez Perce or Namipu are known for is Chief Joseph, the Appaloosa horse, and the interaction with the Lewis and Clark expedition, 1804 to 1806. We had a really, really big effect on their survival coming across the Bitterroot Mountains, and I might get into that a little bit. But let people know that you've authentically spent time with the Namipu people. And of course, that's whose homeland you reside on. And we're really, really thankful to be here to be able to share a little bit of our history and our culture with you. So what I would also like to do is talk about what it is I am wearing today. And this is called regalia. And I'll start on the top of my head. And these are very, very important, sacred pieces of clothing, material culture for our people. So on top of my head, I'm wearing, it's called a liskau in our language. It's a basket hat. And what it is it's natural grasses that are gathered across our homelands and they're woven together. And when I take off my basket hat, I look inside the very bottom. Has anybody been close to a bird's nest and looked at the beautiful intricacy, mathematics, engineering, and the science that it takes to be able to put together a nest or a liskau, a basket hat? So I always like to look at the nest and say, oh my goodness, you know, our winged relatives, our birds, they're very, very forthcoming in recycling, reusing. You know, they pick up little pieces of string or rope that we accidentally or intentionally discard, and they pick them up and they kind of they help us with what we might accidentally litter, right? And they grab it and they make a beautiful home out of it to last for future generations. And I just love being able to look into a nest, not too close, and look into the Lee Scout and look at the intricacy, like I said, the engineering, and all of the elements that are tied together to bring together a beautiful hat like this. And the Lee Scouts are something that the matriarchs, the leader women in our bands or communities wear. Not every woman is allowed to wear a basket hat. She's gifted a basket hat depending on how much she contributes back to her community in the form of gathering traditional foods, traditional medicines, and making sure that the people are taken care of. So that's really how we show our wealth, is being able to give, like we just did, during the ceremony. We wanted to make sure that we have those moments of offering, because that's how we show our wealth. It's not how much money we have in the bank and how much we have in investments, but how much we can give back and contribute to the community. That's what really shows us our wealth. And same with the men's war bonnets. Sometimes we will see chiefs wearing war bonnets, and that is something that is very much earned. You're not just given it because of who you are. You're given these things from a very diplomatic way because you've earned the respect of your band or your community. I wanted to talk about the Lee Scout really quick. And then on the top of the Lee Scout, I have ermine fur, also a native animal from this area. In the winter, he or she turns white. In the summer, they turn brown. So they adapt to their environment. And we're very, very much connected to our four-legged relatives as well. Not only, the little ones, but also the big ones like the bison, the elk, the moose, the deer, and so forth. If you come down my hair, you will see that I have mother of pearl earrings in. So our mother of pearl earrings, all of our shells, what we did is we traded with coastal tribes. So if you look at a geological map, what we'll see is a variety of different tribes, and somehow we're able to kind of group ourselves in different categories. One of them is the coastal tribes, which weaves us into the plateau tribes, over to the plains tribes, maybe down to the southwestern tribes. So if you look at a geological map, we are part of the plateau tribe, and we are part of the Sahaptin-speaking tribes, which also includes some of the Coeur d'Alene, Nez Perce, Walla Walla tribes. So we have lots of similarities, but we also have direct access through trade, these shells and other items, with the river systems in which we're able to enjoy. The Pacific, the Columbia, the Snake, the Clearwater rivers. So those are our ancient trade routes. Very, very important for our people to continue to access, to hunt, fish, gather, and guide across. And that's why I really believe the foundation of Nez Perce tourism is so solid, because our first pillar is cultural identity. We want to make sure our young people, and that's why I was so happy to see the multi-generational learning happening earlier, because our young people are our future, right? We got to instill confidence in them. We have to instill hope. We have to instill values that tie in with who we are as a people to be able to raise them up the way that they can go. So our young people are very, very important. So cultural identity is the main pillar of Nez Perce tourism. Then we look at something we experienced this morning is land acknowledgement. But not only land acknowledgement, we're looking at reconciliation. We're looking at land back, making sure that the land that was stolen is putting back into the ownership of the tribal people in which it was stolen from. And when we look at the period of Indian wars, it wasn't just something that was sometimes a treaty negotiation signed over and handed. What it was is sometimes it was, not combatants versus warriors or soldiers versus warriors. Really what that was families fleeing for their lives to be able to sidestep from being in a place that they didn't want any conflict. So we have many stories tied to the flight of freedom for 1877, and that's something I highly recommend looking into on your own leisure. Also, the Treaty of 1855, a very comprehensive document you can find on Google that will map out what the official handshake was between the Nez Perce and the United States government. And I want you to read through and look at some of those promises, and you can make your own determination to see whether those promises were filled or not. There's several of them that aren't, maybe a few that kind of are, but I know that for me, when we say a handshake, even a verbal or written, I make sure that I'm committed to whatever it is that I said, because that's the natural law of who you are, right? You have to be accountable for what you promised and what you're doing and how you're moving forward in a way that's very honest, right? We want to make sure that we're honest. So I highly recommend looking at that. But then you go down and you look at, I have these long otter furs in my hair. And our hair is very, very sacred to us. Our hair is something that not very long ago we were forbidden to have, to be honest. And some of you may be aware of the boarding school era. And the boarding school era, what that did is it allowed for the natives to be taken from the reservation, the kids, and they were placed into educational systems where they were forced into assimilation. We were forced to cut our hair, the young boys, the young girls. We were forbidden to speak our language, in which we heard from the story a second ago. We could not practice our spirituality. We had to give up our eagle feathers, our otter furs, our buckskins, because these were evil, these were bad. So we look at the psychological effect that assimilation has taken generation after generation of our people, and the little kids were so right in saying, that wouldn't feel very good. I wouldn't feel very comfortable with not being able to speak my language. So a lot of these things, from a cultural standpoint, we were forced to put away. And that's why I love being able to bring these things back out and talk about the relevancy of why they are so important to us. So our hair, we believe that our hair is very sacred. The young men and the young women also have long hair. I also have my hair parted right down the middle and over my ears. And that part down the middle, as we all know as sovereign individuals, there's this really direct path that's been laid out for each of our lives. And it's a very, very straight line. And if we stay on that line, things go very, very well. But we have to have communication with the creator of all things, right, at all times, to be able to stay on that divine line. Sometimes, including myself, I've detoured to the right and went to the left, did a circle U-turn, went back around, and then I finally found that spot again. But there is this very, very important line that we're to follow. My braids, when I braid my hair in the morning, there are 3 strands. I braid forward in a forward motion, because that's how we are taught to live our lives. As we go through adversity, trials, tribulations, you can still continue to walk forward through forgiveness, reconciliation, and honor. So that is why we have our long hair. And then we use the otter furs to be able to protect our hair as well. Up here on the top, I do actually have some quill work, which is porcupine quill. The porcupine quills are plucked, then they're also dyed and wrapped around bone. So all of these things are very, very important to our people. Before we ever acquired beads, which you can see all through my regalia, I'm decorated in beads as well, we utilize the porcupine quill as our main source of crafts and material culture. The beads, you might think of, where do they come from? They're glass beads. And we've probably traded beads for about maybe 230 years. And these are Venetian beads. They come from Venice, Italy. And you can see all throughout the regalia that I'm wearing that beads are very, very important to our people. So what happens is the Italians would trade to the Germans would bring around the Pacific Ocean, that very same trade river route that I talked about earlier, through the Columbia, Snake, and Clearwater rivers. And where we're located is very, very important to our people, because that gave us access not only to the trade items, export, import, but we were able to access everything north, south, east, and west of us. There wasn't a elk tooth. There wasn't a bighorn sheep dress. There wasn't a bead that didn't come through our area without our approval. So that also made us a very, very powerful tribe for trade. Now again, the beads were very, very important for our people because that also showed your wealth. So the more beads you had, or the more elk teeth you had, which showed your prominency of how good or how great of a hunting family you come from, was also very important. So if you looked at me, you would know that this young woman is from the Plateau tribe. Oh, look at her tribal designs. You can tell she's from a Nez Perce. It's a Nez Perce woman is who you see. So that's how historically we were able to identify what tribes and what bands you would have come from, is through the beads, the geometrical designs, and the patterns in which we share. So again, I also make sure that I always have a back pouch full of anything that I may need, and a knife. As young women, we make sure that we were always very, very busy in setting up camp, preparing the silk, salmon, fish, digging roots, berries, and everything that we needed. A very, very busy people, just like we are today. But all of our work that we did was very, very much connected to the land. We never took more than we needed, and we always made sure, for example, if we are fishing, that we had a fish distribution chief that made sure that everybody was taken care of. We didn't have any signs of homelessness, any signs of mental illness, any signs of diabetes. We were always a very, very healthy people, very rich in nutrition, very active. And so when it was colonial times, we were rationed out different things of lard and grease, and that's where fry bread comes from. is the flour and the grease that comes together. And I was just reading an article on some of the Bureau of Indian Affairs liaisons and what they were actually doing when the natives were supposed to be getting their rationings. They were actually being sold to settlers. So we would get the very, very spoiled last of the items. So we look at, mental health, the continual generational trauma upon Native American peoples, diabetes and things like that. Think, why do these, underserved communities always struggle with these things the most? And it was the continual government policy that was placed upon Natives that are still affecting us today. So to be able to come forward and talk about truth, reconciliation, real history, education that maybe isn't taught at school or in the history books, and be able to bring out some of these stories, it will really allow people to understand why some of these things are adversely affecting our entire nations. But with that, I just wanted to come and say that I'm so, so, so thankful to be able to be here from a place of healing. And that's what it's all about, is to be able to maybe find the truth, some of the promises that were left, and see if they have been fulfilled. But not only that, is our individual destiny in our lives. What am I doing with my life? Am I fulfilling my full potential destiny? And look at yourself too. What is it that I've been called here to do on this earth? What is my gift? I know exactly who I am. I know exactly where I come from. I've been able to identify my gifts through a very, very hard process, let me tell you that. But I know exactly who I am, and I know why I'm here. And what we're doing here is that we're building bridges, and we're able to weave together several different strands of backgrounds, of religions, of identities, and we're able to weave that together. And what we have in our language is not a word for goodbye. In our language, we have a word that says kots pamawa, and that is until we meet again. And the reason why we say never goodbye, but until we meet again, is because if we've even spent a moment of time here on Mother Earth, this earth together, we know that our spirits are going to meet again in heaven, because that's where we're all going to be again one day. So again, we do not say a word for goodbye. It is until we meet again, until we see each other again, because we know we will see each other on the other side. Imaktas katsiaya. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I can answer later on too after service. Okay.
Thank you so very much for being here and for sharing your history and your culture. And I sure hope that we're going to see each other sooner than on the other side. And I didn't realize that Nez Perce were universalists. Oh. Okay. So I think what comes next is we're singing again so that everybody gets a chance to stand up. I pulled our closing reading from Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. The seventh fire prophecy presents a second vision for the time that is upon us. It tells that all the people of the earth will see that the path ahead is divided. They must make a choice in their path to the future. Reminds me of the part in your hair. I don't fully comprehend prophecy and its relation to history, but I know that metaphor is a way of telling truth far greater than scientific data. I know that when I close my eyes and envision the crossroads that our elders foresaw, it runs like a movie in my head. The fork in the road stands atop a hill. To the left, the path is soft and green and spangled with dew. You want to go barefoot. The path to the right is ordinary pavement, deceptively smooth at first, but then it drops out of sight into the hazy distance. Just over the horizon, it is buckled with heat, broken to jagged shards. In the valleys below the hill, I see the people of the seventh fire walking toward the crossroads with all they have gathered. They carry in their bundles the precious seeds for a change of worldview, not so they can return to some atavistic utopia, but to find the tools that allow us to walk into the future. So much has been forgotten, but it is not lost as long as the land endures and we cultivate people who have the humility and ability to listen and learn. And the people are not alone. All along the path, non-human people help. What knowledge the people have forgotten is remembered by the land. The others want to live too. The path is lined with all the world's people in all colors of the medicine wheel, red, white, black, yellow, who understand the choice ahead, who share a vision of respect and reciprocity, of fellowship with the more than human world. Men with fire, women with water, to re-establish balance, to renew the world. Friends and allies all, they are falling in step, forming a great long line, headed for the barefoot path. And we too fall in line along the barefoot path. Let's sing together our musical benediction, There Is a Love. Please join me in the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this chalice that it might go gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. Would you like the last word?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as we have graciously gathered with our hearts, our minds as one in this place, just like we do when we hear the heartbeat of the drum. You know, as we meditate, the first thing that I was able to feel is the ground in which we walk on, is a solid foundation. The second thing I felt was the heartbeat of not only myself, but the pulse of this whole congregation. And it was really beating as one. And I'm very, very, very thankful and honored to be able to be a part of that heartbeat today. So with that, we ask God to continue to protect, to continue to hold you and to guide you on your direct path that which has been called for your individual destinies. I ask that we help light and ignite other people as we go out today into our community, just in a way of love. You know, not in a way of trying to force anything but love as we continue out our day in our lives. I just ask that we continue to reconcile within our own hearts and our minds, but that we also protect our mind from anything that may try to hinder it throughout this walk that we have with our lives. I just ask that you guard your heart and guard your mind so you can be the best that you have been intended to be, to walk on this earth. Kots Pamawa, until we meet again. Imakas Katsiayaw. A big thank you.
Go in peace.
Oh my goodness.